I've spent the last 3 decades inside of rooms where strategy actually gets decided, like the boardrooms where 7 to 10 figure founders and organizations kind of look up from a perfectly good year and realize quietly that something has shifted underneath of them. I've had the opportunity of working with entrepreneurs building something from scratch, agencies that are trying to hold their ground in crowded marketplaces, service businesses that are trying to scale, funded startups racing to prove their model, and even Fortune 100 companies that are trying not to become their own worst case scenario. So all of these businesses, they're different sizes, they're different industries, but it's the same pattern every single time. But here's what actually makes my work different and why I'm making this video for you. I'm a futurist, and what that means is that I study markets and trends the way that other people kind of study their craft. So I read the strategic intelligence reports. I track what's shifting in buyer behavior and in technology and how money is actually moving through industries. And somewhere along the way, I actually realized that I have a genuine gift for reading markets before they shift and for being able to see the pattern before it becomes really obvious to everyone else. And that skill has been a force multiplier in not only helping me in my own business, but my clients get extraordinary results. Because in business, the founders that are able to see what's coming 12 to 24 months early don't just survive a big shift, right? It's also what helps me to strategically architect category of one companies, which is what my company, Phoenix Growth Partners, does, right? And what that means is a category of one company is a business with a competitive advantage so clear and so specific that comparison shopping becomes totally irrelevant. So you make your competition irrelevant. And this is the work that I've been doing my entire career since I started in a brand marketing agency at the age of 19 in Silicon Valley. So right now, here's what's happening. I'm watching a shift that most founders are going to miss until it's already going to cost them. So let's talk about it a little bit. In the course of my career, so again, I mentioned that I started when I was 19. I've watched 3 major shifts that come in quietly at first, but then break companies that by every visible measure were doing everything right. Okay. The ones that saw the shift coming grew. They got bigger. They hit more of their goals. They succeeded. And the ones who didn't are now the cautionary tales that became case studies in business school. So 3 shifts, and there's one that's happening right now. And so let me just tell you a little bit about what I've seen. So the first one, if you remember back, this is going to so date me, but if you remember back, the first one hit in the late 1990s into the early 2000s, the internet, right? And I know, like everyone knows that the internet changed everything. But here is what most people miss is they missed how it actually took a bunch of companies down. It wasn't that they ignored it. It's that they treated it like a marketing add-on instead of a fundamental change in how customers find, evaluate, and buy services and solutions. So what they did was they kind of ignored it, they backburnered it, and they kept doing what had always worked. They did the sales calls, they did the referral networks, the trade shows, the print ads, and it kept working right up until it didn't. So by the time that the numbers started softening, the companies that had already bet on digital were owning their categories. And the lesson that I took from watching that unfold is this: the shift always looks optional until it's too late to catch up, right? Until it's too late to catch up. So the second shift started around 2008. And if you remember back, 2008, we had a major market crash. And I had already seen the shift coming. So I had already been helping my clients prepare it, already pivoted my business. And what happened was by 2012, it was impossible to ignore. Paid advertising, the ones that we were using traditionally in business, stopped working the way that they used to. So for years, the formula was simple. You spend money on ads, you get leads, you convert leads, you scale spend, you repeat, and it was clean and predictable and profitable. And then the cost of getting a customer actually started climbing and climbing and climbing. And the revenue per customer didn't climb with it. Okay. So the businesses that survived had built their own audiences. They'd built their own email lists. They were starting to build podcast environments. And the content that brought people in, they were bringing it in organically without paying for every single click. So these companies stopped running attention and started owning it. And the ones that didn't kept using their same old strategy, right? They kept buying ads. They were doing, and then when that started to slip, they were like, oh, I just need new creative. I need a new agency. I need a new platform. And they were trying to fix with tactics what was actually a fundamental shift in how trust gets built between a business and a buyer. Okay. So the lesson there is that by the time your numbers tell you something is broken, you've already missed the window to fix it cleanly. And this happened to a lot of businesses that I worked with, and they were crashing out and then they were scrambling to try to fix it. The third shift that I've seen in the course of my career ran from roughly 2015 to 2020. And this is the one that a lot of service business owners, they felt it, but they couldn't quite name what that shift was. So everything started to feel more competitive. Margins started getting squeezed, right? So it was costing more, it was producing less, and clients started having more options and more leverage. And the things that started to make you feel different, like when we used to base competitive advantage on excellent customer service, those sorts of things, or, just being the best at your craft, those things that used to make you different started to feel like just the baseline. And so what was actually happening is the entire categories of businesses were being reorganized around companies that had built something stickier, right? Something with recurring revenue and proprietary processes. And I'm not just talking about, let me just be clear. I'm not talking about having a cute signature system like they create in a lot of coaching containers. I'm literally talking about proprietary ways that we are creating better results for our clients, intellectual property. And also, they were creating relationships with their partners, with their vendors, with their clients that were hard to walk away from. So they weren't just better at the work, they'd actually built something that was harder to compete with. And the businesses that adapted built recurring offers, retainers, and the ones that built the proprietary processes that they could actually name and charge for. And they also built those communities around their work. The ones that didn't kept on competing on deliverables and hourly rates and wondering why it kept getting harder to hold their pricing baseline. So the lesson there for entrepreneurs is that when the game changes, doing the old game better is not a good strategy. It's just a slower version of losing. Okay? So 3 shifts: the internet, the end of cheap attention, and the rise of sticky business models. Now the 4th. And this is the one that everyone needs to be paying attention to, because a lot of people are paying attention to it right now, but they're only paying attention to it in one aspect. And that's what's going to bite a lot of people. Okay. And this is the one that I'm watching hit hardest the people that I personally work with in my firm, Phoenix Growth Partners, the most. Okay. Entrepreneurs innovating in their market and service-based businesses that are scaling between high six figures, or like right around that $1 million mark to 10 million. And they're looking to create an eventual exit, right? Or a legacy business. So here's what I'm seeing across the board, because I'm behind the scenes of a lot of companies as an investor, as an advisor, as a peer in high-level rooms. So I find that these entrepreneurs, they built their businesses by outworking everyone around them, right? We hustled our little hearts out because that's what we were taught. So you said yes when you should have said no. You took the calls, you delivered the work, and you figured it out as you went. And it worked for a long time. I mean, I personally did the hustle and grind, right? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got the burnout. And we built something real, right? We built 7-figure companies. But somewhere in the last year or two, it stopped feeling like it was working in the same way. So what my clients and peers have told me is they're busier than ever, but growth has plateaued. You're hiring people, but somehow you're still the one doing everything that matters. Who feels that? You're making decent money. You might even be making really good money, but you're exhausted in a way that a good vacation doesn't fix, because the entire business has been built around you, your energy, and your effort. So when you step out, the energy steps out, the management steps out, and your business starts to decline. So you keep thinking like, I just need a better system. I just need more marketing, a little more help, one more campaign, one more launch, and then you're going to be right back on track. Okay. So this is not a you problem. This is a shift problem. And AI and everything that came with it has fundamentally changed what it takes to stand out, to attract the right clients, and to build something that does not require you to personally grind every dollar out of it. The entire model and environment has changed. So this hustle model, or this era of hustle, where effort and output are directly connected, where the more you do, typically if you're, especially if you're in like a coaching program, or you're working with someone who's got a tactical formula, the more you do, the more you're going to grow. And it has stopped working the way it did. And it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because the market you built it for has already changed shape underneath of you. And here's what I know for certain from watching 3 prior shifts land. The founders who recognize this early and rebuild around the new model don't just survive. They end up owning their category while everyone else is still trying to figure out why their old playbook stopped paying off. And this is what I call the fusion era. And the founders who build inside this fusion paradigm lens that I talk about, the ones that build inside of it intentionally, strategically, and with a genuine competitive advantage that's specific to them, are the ones that are going to look back at, 2025, 2026, 2027 as the years that changed everything in their favor. So I've put together a masterclass, which is really more of a strategic briefing. This is not a masterclass that I'm going to give you how-to tips and the next shiny tactic. We don't do that here. Okay. But this masterclass, this strategic briefing called The Hustle Era is Over, How Entrepreneurial Leaders Build Competitive Advantage in the Age of AI, is now available for you to learn. You can go to fusionmasterclass.com, or we've pinned it in the comments. You can reach out to my team and we'll get you the link to register. We talk about this. I'm going to open the kimono and show you the behind the scenes of exactly what's happening in the market and how you need to pivot your business now. And here's what I want you to leave with. Every single shift that I've watched in land in the last 30 years looked like a tactics problem before it revealed itself as a model problem. The internet looked like a website problem. The attention shift looked like an ads problem. The stickiness shift looked like a pricing problem. Those were never the actual issue. They were like the giant red flags, the signals that the game had changed. And the founders who were able to catch it early, right? Not because they were smarter or luckier, but because they were the ones that were willing to question a model that was still working. Those are the ones who built something worth building. So if you've been feeling like something's off here, it's not you. You're correct. Your intuition is telling you that. And you're allowed to question what got you here. You're allowed to look at a business that's still generating revenue and ask whether the architecture that's underneath of it, that foundation, is built for where the market's going or it's built for where the market's been. And I have to tell you that with AI, like I've never seen anything like this before. I'm redoing every single one of my client strategies to and their strategic architecture in their business to adjust to this shift. Okay. And that willingness to look clearly before the numbers force you to is the whole game right now. It is the biggest challenge that all entrepreneurs are facing right now, even if they don't know it. So if something that I've talked about here is what you've been feeling, if this resonates with you, if you want to know more and you want me to really explain how we all got here and what's coming next, jump on the Fusion Masterclass. You can go to fusionmasterclass.com, or like I said, comment Masterclass below and my team will send it to you directly.